are live.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right. So how you doing today, Tenial?
Oh, I guess I better turn that down.
Yeah, it'll be an echo.
Hello, how you doing, cousin?
I'm good, cousin. So we'll give it a couple of minutes to allow people to join. And then you
Okay.
can go ahead and share on your page. While I do that as well, did you see it come up? I see mine.
I see it, but let me see if I can.
All right.
There we go. Here we go. Honey, no, me and being tech savvy in my
Right.
old age.
I know. I'll be learning stuff. I feel like I'm slow. I can't catch on. Every time I think I got it, I'll be like, okay, yeah, I don't have it.
I don't have it. And my daughter, bless her heart, every time, like if I try to do a little cooking video or something, I'm like, hey, can you edit this for me?
Yeah, you got teenagers. They should be able to do that for you. You should have
And
no
she does it
problem.
so fast. She does it so. I'm like, girl, you can make money doing this.
Right, because I'm like, I need to hire somebody. Hey, Elaine, how you doing? I see some people coming in.
Hello.
So yeah, because I'm like, I need to hire some teenager for low prices.
Right.
Because I don't know what I'm doing, like the TikTok, all that stuff. I'm like, I can't get with it.
He's excellent. And it's so crazy. It's like the things that take me forever to figure out how to do. She's like, bloop, bloop,
They can
bloop,
do it so
done.
fast.
And
I
she'll
know.
send it to me. And she's like, added music to it already and effects and all this stuff.
Right.
I'm like, girl, you too much.
Hi, Carolyn. How are you? So we'll go ahead and get started while others continue to join. My name is Alicia Perkins. I am a licensed clinical social worker. And I started doing a Saturday seed was it last year, June. I started doing it where I was just giving people words of wisdom because it was during the pandemic where people were struggling with mental health. So just giving them words of wisdom because I am a therapist and understand that everybody can't afford therapy, just giving some encouragement. And then also God spoke to me to start doing the S.H.E.R.O spotlight, where I spotlight women who have been through adversities, but who have overcome all the struggles they've been through. Because when I was dealing with my darkest moment, when I was dealing with depression, when I was going through a divorce, I was like, I felt alone. And me being a therapist, you would think I would reach out for help, but I didn't because I thought I could handle it on my own. Even I had friends who were therapists, but I wasn't as candid with them. And so I finally did seek therapy and got the help that I needed. So this whole platform is to let people know that you're not alone. When you're going through certain things, there may be somebody else who have walked in the same shoes, have been on the same journey that you are on or that you have been on, and that they can really help and inspire you. And the great thing about this platform, when I started it, didn't know this, but all the women I have interviewed so far are business owners. And so today, right. So today I have my cousin on here, Tenial Spencer, and she is a business owner as well. We're going to get into her story. But before I let her introduce herself. The purpose of S.H.E.R.O Spotlight is to encourage other women, but I want to explain the acronym. So S.H.E.R.O, of course, is a female hero, as you all know, but I use the acronym S.H.E.R.O, and the S stands for sacrificing for my children, or if you have one child like myself, child. H, healing from my past hurts. E, evolving into what God wants me to be. R, revealing my truth. And O, obtaining my goals and happiness. Because those are the things that help me overcome. And so that to me is what a S.H.E.R.O is in my eyes. So again, today I have my cousin here. So Tenial, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tenial Spencer. I am a proud mother of 4 teenagers, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. I had twins and they came last. Ari, Amir, Asha, and Steven. They are my joy. Yeah. I'm also a proud native of Martinsville, Virginia, or Axton, Laurel Park High School, class of 96.
Well, I'm 97. I was right behind you, cuz.
Yes. Okay. So proud native of Martinsville, Henry County. And I ended up moving to Greensboro, North Carolina after my divorce.
Mhm.
and just kind of been planted in North Carolina since then. It's, been a couple little transitions here and there, but
Mhm.
for the most part, been planted in North Carolina, and that's where my career journey began. And so
Yeah.
that's about it. I'm a working woman.
Yes. The cool thing is, the other day I just realized I'm like 6 out of what, 8 now, because it's the 8th month of my Sheroes, have 4 children.
Oh,
So
that's
you
right,
ladies
because
are coming through with
Brianna.
4s.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. Now
So
I
I
did
think,
get a 2 for 1
yeah,
at
you
that
did.
last
Yeah.
one. I got a 2 for 1 deal. Yeah.
So with you having your teenagers, so describe your parenting style.
So as a parent, I know everybody has their own way of doing it. Kids do not come with manuals, right?
Uh-huh.
We're all just trying to figure it out, right?
Right.
Um, but as a mom, I am definitely very hands-on, very in your face. You ain't got no business. My business is your
Your
business. Actually,
business, right?
it's all our business.
Right.
And so, you know how some people are very polite and let's knock on the door before we walk in. I'm just gonna open the door.
Right.
I'm gonna be in your phone. I'm gonna be in your email. I want to know who you're talking to.
Right.
But that's just because in an age where kids are so exposed to everything,
Mhm.
um, overly exposed to
Mhm.
everything, I feel like sometimes you have to not take such an a standoff approach.
Right, right,
You have
right.
to kind of be in your face, and have those hard discussions, ask those hard questions, you
Mhm.
know, some things that are very uncomfortable, but you
Right.
got to ask those questions. So my approach is
Right.
definitely very much so in your face and very hands-on.
Right. I agree
Yeah.
with that because especially in this day and time, children are exposed sooner than we were to certain things.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
again, educating them, it starts at home because you don't want them to
It does.
learn through their friends or other people who may give them the wrong information.
That's correct. We want to be the experts.
Right.
For as long as we can be the experts, we want to be the experts.
Right. Because even
Mhm.
now I'm kind of battling with talking to my daughter about sex. Yes, she's only 9. People say, oh, is that too early? No. I found books. They
Mhm.
say to start at that age. The earlier, the better. They say, because
Mhm.
she talks about things, making out. I'm like, what you mean about making out, child? What does that mean? I need to know what your definition is, and those type of things because they're getting things from school, YouTube, so you need to educate and be involved. So I listen to the things she say. And so I did actually find a book on Amazon. It says, let's talk about sex for children ages like 9 to 12. And it's like in
Yeah.
their language to understand. Now I haven't presented the book yet to her. I'm still trying to read it myself.
We
For one,
praying,
because I'm
mama. We
still
praying.
nervous. But then I also bought her a book on puberty, though, and again speaks in her language about taking what happens to their body in puberty, the things they go through, and stuff like that. And she really is
Mhm.
liking that book. And then every day we have a discussion about what she's read, and she asks me questions. But I think it's very important that we have these conversations with our children early on. And so I see
The
some more
hard
people
ones.
coming in on Hello Everyone, and so we're gonna jump right into it. So the thing when I heard your story when we talked was about your childhood trauma, which a lot of
Sure.
people don't want to talk about their childhood trauma,
Mhm.
but it's
Mhm.
part of the healing process. And as a therapist, I have most of my clients that come to me, the issues they have in adulthood is because of what they faced in their childhood. And regardless
Sure.
of how much they tried to sweep it under the rug, it reared its
Mhm.
ugly head in their adulthood. So let's talk about your childhood. Describe your childhood, like your siblings, your mom. Describe the type of childhood you had and your personality as a child.
Sure. So I grew up again in Martinsville, Virginia.
Yes.
Love my hometown. To a very young mom.
Hmm.
So bless her heart, she had my sister and I, my older sister Miranda and I,
Hmm.
by the age of 18. So I could not, like, in retrospect, I cannot imagine having 2 children at age 18 like that.
Right.
Ooh,
That
that's
blows
a
my
lot,
mind.
right? Ooh, right. And so, she was a single mom. She worked
Hmm.
very, very hard, sometimes 3, 4 jobs, at a time, like part-time
Right.
here, full-time there, back and forth. To make sure we have food, shelter, she definitely worked hard.
Right.
But because my father was not in place, certain things were allowed into my atmosphere as a child. And
Mhm.
so I'm trying to paraphrase. I'm kind of watching my words because I don't want to say too much.
I get it. Yeah.
But there were people who were responsible for my care during the time when my mom was at work,
Mhm.
um, that took advantage of me and actually molested me.
Mhm.
And so, as a child, I was very withdrawn, kind of. Now, I have two sisters, let me clarify. One older, one younger. My
Mhm.
younger sister, of course, she came 7 years after me.
Mhm.
Um, so that was my baby. That was my
Right.
baby. Um, but as a child, I was a little withdrawn, very shy,
Mhm.
um, not very trusting of adults. Um, Difficult, like, just kind of just hard to express myself. I
Right.
think I became a people pleaser. I
Right.
didn't want anybody to see anything wrong,
Uh-huh.
or I didn't want anybody to feel bad. So I took on a lot of responsibility for other people's thoughts and feelings
Mhm.
as a child,
Right.
versus just being a kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just being a
Right.
happy-go-lucky kid. So because I experienced this trauma and abuse,
Mhm.
I internalized it. And I remember this one particular incident where this person said, don't ever let a man touch you like that.
Mhm.
And I remember I was 5 years old when that happened. And so as a 5 year old, I'm in my mind, I let him do it.
Mhm.
So that put the blame on me as the 5 year old, if that makes sense.
Right. It does. Mhm.
So I became very saddened by that. It made me upset. It made me feel
Mhm.
like I did something wrong. It made me feel very guilty for what was actually happening to me, even though
Right.
I was the one who was being victimized at the time.
Right. Right.
And so that was a difficult. I had a very difficult childhood, and a lot of it I don't remember, to be honest.
Right.
I don't have a lot of memories of childhood because I think I blocked a lot of it out.
Mhm. And that happens. That does
Yeah.
happen with people of child sexual abuse. And one of the things where you said, well, that person, put that on you. First of all, they
Hmm.
took away your
Hmm.
innocence as a child. Let's start there. And I've had
Yeah.
that conversation a lot with clients of mine that were victims of childhood sexual abuse as well, since they felt that it was their fault.
Yes.
Was it something
Mhm.
that I did? And that's the first thing we had to work through is that, no, it's not your fault. You're a kid. You don't know anything about that. So at
Correct.
that point, that adult who's supposed to be taking care of you, because again, the first people you look up to, let's start off first, is your mother and father in your life. They're supposed to be
Mhm.
the ones to take care of you. And then of course, extended family and things like they are the adults. So you're trusting as them being the adults to do whatever they tell you to do. So
Correct.
when they take advantage of that, they rob you of your innocence. And so there's
Right.
no way that is your fault in any way, shape, or form. And
Correct.
so it has to go back to the healing process of forgiving yourself of no wrongdoing whatsoever because you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't know.
Exactly.
You did not know.
Exactly.
You were trusting this adult who you felt knew better to do what they told you to do.
Yeah. And I dealt with that for years. And it's so interesting because it manifested itself in different ways. Um, when I was married to my children's father,
Mhm,
I know this might hit home for a lot of people.
mhm,
As a church girl,
mhm.
no pun intended from Beyonce's song.
All right.
I'm not shout her out. As a church girl, like I was a married woman and I felt guilty for having sex with my husband.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy? Or I felt like it was weird. Like certain times it was just difficult for me to connect with him in that way.
right.
Right. And so that trauma translated over into what was supposed to have been a healthy, beautiful relationship with my husband. Isn't that crazy?
Right.
But it was unresolved trauma. It was something I hadn't dealt with being a married woman
Right.
and being in the church. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we want to pray everything away.
Right.
Right.
Because again, you have to think about it because you don't know the real definition of your number one sexuality or relationship, again,
Correct.
starting off that young. So what is that
Right.
supposed to look like? You don't really
Correct.
know.
You don't. You don't
And
have a clue.
then the other thing that people struggle with is telling someone. And in your case, because you felt that it was your fault, you didn't tell anyone.
I told no one and struggled even after being a grown woman with children, struggled being able to say it without becoming emotional
Mhm,
or reliving a certain amount of those memories or the memories that I do have,
mhm,
remembering certain things that happened.
mhm.
Um, it was very difficult to finally be able to say it without being embarrassed, even. Um, and what I found is that the more I was able to talk about it, the less embarrassed I became. I kind of felt empowered, that it was
Right.
no longer something that kind of had control over me.
There you go.
Um, and I was able to, to connect with that little girl, that traumatized little girl, and let her know that she's okay.
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
yeah, that's huge.
Mhm.
Because the
Mhm.
talking about it is healing from your past hurts, which is part of She-Wrote. You have to
Mhm.
heal from those past hurts, but it's also revealing your truth. Because
Mhm.
again, a lot of people, like I said, who've been abused, they sweep it under the rug. And then a lot of reason why you probably don't remember because it's in your subconscious or whatever, but you swept it under the rug. So you
Right.
don't want to remember because it's a bad thought. It brings about pain. So nobody wants to
Mhm.
experience pain, so you'd rather not deal with it. And
Mhm.
so that's part of therapy and working through it and healing and talking about it because you have to deal with, because think about it, all those feelings and emotion, what are you doing with them all your life?
Mhm.
They're just
Mhm.
stuck inside of you. So how do they come out? They come out probably in unhealthy ways, of course.
Absolutely. And I know, like, as far as some of my relationship choices even,
Hmm.
um, they just weren't the healthiest choices.
Hmm.
Um, even up until recently, let's just keep it real. Come on,
Very
somebody,
funny.
let's just keep it real.
Keep it real.
Sometimes, it's about, I think what abuse does is it strips you of your ability to trust yourself
Mhm.
and develop this, this beautiful thing called self-confidence.
Right,
This thing that teaches you that your initial feeling about something is correct, being
right,
able to trust yourself and trust the God in you and trust the Holy Spirit in you. It says, no, 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 that's not right.
right,
You had it right the first time. Like, you shouldn't doubt yourself.
right,
And
right,
so again, going through therapy and working through that,
right. And
um, talking through it
yeah.
helps.
And to
Mhm.
parents out there, if your child do come to you with that information that they've been abused, you do need to act on it and not say,
Mhm.
oh, you lying and things like that. You have to really talk to your children because that's another thing. A lot of my clients said they told their mother, they told an
Mm.
adult, and they didn't believe them.
And they didn't
And
believe
that
them.
scarred them for life.
Mhm.
And they
Mhm.
would start using drugs and other things like that to deal with the pain they felt and the rejection they felt by others when they did say what happened to them. No one believed them.
Mhm.
And so I do want to talk about some signs to look for, in children that have, been molested or, abused. So sometimes you may see them being isolated, wanting to be by themselves. Regressive behaviors, like if you have a child who's 10 or 11 and now they start wetting the bed, that's
Mm.
something to look at. Excessive talking about sexual things, or their sexual behavior is inappropriate for that age. Not
Mhm.
wanting to be left alone with certain people. And talk about that, Tenial, because how did you get out of your situation?
Oh, I was just gonna say, girl. I said, that, and we talked about this before, but
Mhm.
for me, um, that was how I kind of let my mom know that something was wrong without telling her that something was wrong.
Right.
I basically, because I would go see these people on the weekends, right?
Mhm.
So I guess I was maybe about 7. Now, and let me clarify, I don't know when the abuse began, but I know that it ended around age 7.
Mhm.
And so this one particular weekend, like, in my mind, I had this anxiety. I didn't want to go. I couldn't think of any other way to say it other than to just blurt it out. I don't want to go.
Mhm.
I don't want to go.
Right.
And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "I don't want to go. Don't
Right.
make me go."
Right.
And so when, and she did make me go, but
Right.
she never asked why I didn't want to go.
So, mhm.
She never asked me why, or she never, kind of tried to pull it out of me as to why,
Mhm.
or what had happened, or if anything had happened. It was
Right.
just an understanding. I don't want to go anymore. Don't make me go.
Right.
Or I think she knew I was probably gonna show out or something.
Right. Right.
If she did, but yeah, at that point it was just, I don't wanna go. Yeah.
So again, ask questions. Like if they're saying, hey, I don't want to be around this person, ask questions.
Ask why.
Also just a change in their behavior. If you have a child who is usually pretty, high spirited and energetic and, sociable, then all of a sudden they are like this quiet kid, that's something to look into. If they don't want to change clothes anymore in front of you, ashamed of their body and things like that, or remove clothing or things like that, watch for these type of signs, ask questions, ask the kids. I told my daughter, and let me explain again, it's no particular age where you have to talk about good touch, bad touch. Again, I think the sooner the better. I told my child about good touch, bad touch, probably when she was maybe like 3 or 4, that no one's to touch your privates. And I had to explain to her what is privates. I
Right.
went through this whole spiel, what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
And she
You gotta
is
spell
really
it out.
right.
Yeah.
And she is on it. Like even now I check in with her, anybody say, no, mommy, nobody touch me. If they do, I'm gonna hit them. I'm gonna tell you. I'm like, right, you tell me. Because I tell her, I said, because sometimes, the perpetrator will try to say, if you tell your mom or dad, I'm going to hurt them or whatever. So then that scares the child. So they don't. But I told they're going to be the ones getting hurt. So you tell me. And so,
That's right.
those type of things to make sure you have a safe place for them to be able to come to you. Because if you're the person who's like jumping on their case, saying certain things to them, they're not going to be as open. So having these conversations, sitting your kids down, even if you're a grandparent out there, talking to your grandkids or telling your kids to talk to your grandkids. Also, leaving your children with just anybody. And a lot of times children who've been abused, sexually abused, is not by a stranger. It's usually family members or a friend of the family, somebody they know. So you have to make sure, and I have talked to kids about this and parents, and I've had this conversation before because they've asked me to have conversations to kids about, good touch, bad touch, and to their parents. And I tell the parents, if your child is going with a friend to a sleepover, meet those parents first. Find out who they are, who coming up in the house, because you don't know who walking in and out these people's houses.
Listen. So for a long time, and like I said, I got 4 kids. So my house was the quote unquote sleepover house, right?
Right.
And it was because it wasn't that I didn't trust people, it's just that I didn't trust people.
I feel you. And
so, and you know what, but what was amazing to me though, is that a lot of, especially when they were little, when they were were in elementary school, a lot of the parents would literally just they didn't ask me any questions. They would just drop their kids off with the sleeping bag, overnight bag, toothbrush, and they would just leave them at the doorstep. Bye, see you later. They didn't ask me any questions. And it was amazing. Now, thankfully, I have the spirit of God on the inside of me. So I'm never gonna do anything to harm a child. However, what if I weren't? What if I were
exactly
a not so nice person? Or what if I had someone in my home who was not a not so nice person, or an uncle or something that was, or an auntie that,
Right.
You just never know unless you ask questions. That's the whole point.
Right. And being church girls is also watching people in the churches, because they in church don't mean nothing as well. So you have to be careful, who they're hanging out with at church, even walking your child. I think it's good to walk your child to the bathroom and stuff like that, especially if you go to one of those mega churches and stuff like that. You don't know everybody there.
You don't.
So again, you have to ask questions. You have to know people. And I will say that's one thing about my parents. They didn't really let us stay with a lot of people. I just stay with my Aunt Betty a lot. I see my Aunt Betty on here. Hey, Aunt Betty. I just stay with her and my Uncle Don.
Hey, Betty.
My parents didn't let me stay with a lot of people. And I used to get so mad, like when people would invite me over to sleepovers and my parents would be like, no. I'm like, that's so mean. But
girl, do you remember? You probably don't remember. Do you remember we got snowed in at your house one time? I think it was me and Red. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Girl, we had like 3 or 4 feet of snow.
Right. Yes. So they didn't let us stay with a lot of people, but now my mom told as we got older, she said, because she had girls, she couldn't just trust anybody with us, and she just didn't, if they couldn't be around us and know who they were, they just didn't let us go off with people. And so, and I know in this day and time, and me being a single mom, and like you said, your mom being 18 at the time with 2 little ones, that's tough. And one thing I talk to my clients about is not necessarily saying excusing their behavior, but sometimes we got to give them grace. And I see some light hearts in the audience because Right, because they didn't
Listen,
know. Sometimes they didn't have the
she
tools.
didn't know. And that was something that I had to work through in therapy as well. I had to view it from the lens of my mother being 18 years old with
Right.
2 children. I'm like, she didn't know. She didn't know.
Hmm.
And even after when it happened, she still didn't know because I ain't say nothing.
Mm, right.
And so how would she know?
Hmm.
And she used the best tools that she knew how to use to raise us. And I thank God for my mother. And because we never went with hungry or
Hmm.
dirty, or she wasn't strung out on drugs and stuff like that. So I thank
Right.
God for my mom. And so, but just certain things happen because certain things were not in place to protect us.
Right.
And that's how I have to view that.
Mhm.
But we, now that we're older, we're wiser, we know better, so we're gonna do better,
Right.
right?
There you go. Right.
Absolutely.
And we have the tools. And that's my hope for
Absolutely.
today, for the people who are on today. And thank you all for the love that you all are giving out here, the likes and stuff, that you do have these conversations. If you have some little ones, or the little grandkids, have their parents talk with them, have these
Yeah,
open dialogues, because we as a community have to do better and look after one
absolutely.
another as a
Absolutely. Stop
community.
calling them little girls fast. Stop calling
Right.
them fast. They fast for a reason.
Right.
You don't know what's happened to them babies,
That's true. Well, that's true. And
Mhm.
another thing too, and you and I talked about this the other day, is like, don't force your children to hug people. I remember being
That
little, they'd be like, oh, if that's such and such, you go give them a hug.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
Don't do that.
Right.
Even for my daughter, I don't do that because she sometimes can get a good, feel for people and be like, I don't like that person, whatever. I don't
That's
force
right.
my child, don't force them to hug somebody and go up out. They don't know them. Even they might be their family member. They might just met their cousin for the first time and you tell them to go over there and hug that
Mhm,
person. So
mhm,
again,
mhm.
using the right tools. There is a program called RAIN, and they have an actual their national hotline. They're open 24/7. So if you are someone who's been sexually abused, or know someone who has, and they need some resources, that's a great resource to have,
Mhm.
and call them, because they have programs to prevent sexual violence. They also help survivors and ensure that the perpetrators are brought to justice as well. So they have a lot of great
Awesome.
resources, and that is available out there. And I'll put the number in the chat later. But I also want to share some stats real fast. Of course, I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'm gonna have to pull up my stats here for you all. Let me see if I can get them up. So I just wanted to share so every 9 minutes, Child Protective Services finds evidence of a claim of child sexual abuse. I'm a person who
Wow.
used to work for Child Protective Services way back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was the most disheartening thing, is to see not only children being sexually abused, but also the physical abuse too. And just the cases is
Wow.
just so, and some of them are horrible, just really just horrible, that these children do not ask to be in this world, and for people to rob them of their innocence and or hurt them like that is just really sad. But out of all victims under 18, 2 out of 3 are ages 12 to 17. 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 53 boys under the age of 18 experience sexual abuse or assault at the hands of an adult. 82% of the victims under 18 are female. Females ages 16 to 19 are 4 times more likely than the general population to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. So again,
Yeah.
making sure we have these conversations with our children. Like Tenial was saying, don't judge, because you don't know what's going on with that child, and they could be acting out because of things that's happened to them. So
Mhm.
again, recognizing those signs and trying to get that person help if they're your loved one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so important. And, again, just creating that open dialogue and, trying to keep conversations going. I think I read somewhere about even with little kids, and I know it's digressing a little bit, but with little kids, explaining, the actual terminology for their body parts,
Mhm.
and not, calling it something else like pee pee or wee wee or whatever,
Right.
but actually using the correct term. So that way someone who is a perpetrator will actually understand that this person is educated, this little child is
Mhm.
educated about their body. They're very aware of what their body parts are.
That's a very
So
good
just
point.
small little things like that.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And then I
No,
think,
no pocketbooks and
right, no, right, use the right, that is so right, because
use
again,
the
if
right
they're thinking it
terminology.
one way because what you taught them, like you said, the pocketbook or the wee, and they don't really know
Yeah,
the terminology, they could still be preyed upon.
that
Because
absolutely,
they don't know what that
absolutely.
is. And I don't want us to forget, like, although it happens more often in females, there are males that
Oh,
get sexually abused, but they don't report it as often as you see females, but it does
yeah.
happen. And you have males. So how have you had this conversation with them?
So my boys, so of course, I have my experience with my daughter, and I've
Right.
spoken very openly with her about my experiences and telling her things like that. But with my boys, a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell them things like, or I give them money. I give them, $100 or something like that. I make sure they understand that $100 is not a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? We sit down, we talk about finances, I'm like, these old women, they might try to buy you J's.
Right. They try to
Or
lure
they
you
might be like,
in.
"Ooh, come get this $100 bill." You know what I'm saying? I give you money, I do da da da, I buy you food, whatever. Well, my kids have Chase cards, Chase accounts,
Mm-hmm.
savings accounts. One of my oldest is about to have his first credit card. He has a car. So things like that, I try to educate them. Don't let some older lady come to you, promising you she gonna be your sugar mama, because I am the mama.
There you
Mama gonna
go.
make sure you got what you need. So don't even
Uh-huh.
worry about that, because I've seen it, and I've heard the horror stories of um older women who prey upon young men, and they try to buy them things, give them money, in
Mm-hmm.
exchange for sex or sexual favors and things like that.
Right.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I approach it with my boys. And
But you're
I say, oh, women have worms.
right. But you're so right, because I mean, to be honest, perpetrators are very calculated. They
Oh
find
yeah.
that
Oh
child's
yeah.
weakness, because like I said, they'll start off with, like, for little kids, give them a piece of candy and stuff like that. They find out
Mhm.
what the weakness is and what ways to lure them. Like you said, the boys could be like, if they don't, if they may not have money. So they're like, okay, I'll buy you this. It starts off with little stuff and it
Yep.
ends up being bigger things and inappropriate things. So
Mhm.
being mindful of those things. I'll be watching people. I'm like, I'm sorry, because I've just seen so much in my career that nothing surprises me now. And so I'm really
Yeah.
like into people watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't play, what I'm saying?
Right, right,
But
right.
you do have to be very vigilant. I will say that.
Mhm.
And so you did
Mhm.
touch a little bit on how your childhood trauma did affect you in your adulthood and your relationships. And you talked
Mhm.
about, you are divorced now, and how has divorce really impacted you and your children, but more so, how did it first impact you? And then I want you to touch on, how did you end up co-parent effectively? Because I know it's not easy to co-parent, but it seems like you and your ex-spouse have a good, co-parenting relationship.
Yeah. So, initially, I ain't gonna lie, girl, it was rough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was rough because I don't think anyone ever, well, hopefully, no one marries with the intention of getting a
Of course,
divorce,
right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know when I took my vows, I meant that thing, honey.
Mm-hmm.
So, so at first it was traumatic in a number of ways, because I had small children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when their dad and I separated, they were 4, 2, and 18-month-old twins,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they were all 4 and under. And so I had been basically a stay-at-home mom. Now, always hustled and made money on the side. You know what I'm saying? Always been a hustler. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Got
but
you.
I always made money on the side. But it's different than having a career path.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we divorced, I had to figure it out and fast. Because
Right.
he was the primary breadwinner, and he was who brought home the check. So I had to figure out a career path. Um, it was difficult because the kids didn't understand. They were still kind of little and somewhat removed from a lot of the idea, because they still saw him. He's still very present,
Right.
but it was difficult in the beginning, and I struggled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I think I shared this with you before. Um, getting down to something crazy like 112 pounds. I was like real
Mm-hmm.
skinny, and making sure my kids ate, but I would eat like a honey bun, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and just going through the pain of having to become a provider for my children
Right.
and not really having a clear direction of where I wanted to go. And so I was working as a mortgage loan consultant, and I started that. That was kind of where I settled
Mhm.
and where I wanted to start,
Right.
because it was familiar to me. When I was
Right.
married, um, I had started doing that on the side. So, it was a little side hustle. So I
Right.
was like, I'll just make that my full-time gig,
Mhm.
not realizing that, it wasn't my passion. It wasn't
Mhm.
part of my purpose. It was
Right.
something I could do to earn money, but it wasn't as productive.
Right.
And so I remember working as a mortgage loan consultant and then getting a job at part-time at a real estate management firm. And
Mhm.
so, they were all out of compliance too, honey. When I tell you, it was okay. Our
Right.
people sometimes bless their hearts, all out of order, right? And so they said, well, if the commission comes in, I'm not gonna name this company because I hope
Right. Don't
they
get
in
them in
compliance.
trouble there to deal. Everybody
They
laughing.
said they said if the real estate commission comes in here, they're gonna shut us down because nobody has a real estate license.
Uh-huh.
So they were like, well, does anyone want to get their real estate license? I do. So I went to real estate school, passed
Mhm.
the exam, and presto, changeo. It was like literally my life changed overnight. It was like because
Wow.
I had been a mortgage loan officer, I had
Mhm.
a book of business, I had contacts and people. They were like, "Oh, you selling houses? Oh, come help me find one." And so it just really popped off from there. And God really blessed the work of my hands. Like it's nobody but God, right?
Right.
So I went literally, and I have a picture in my phone.
Mhm.
I wish it was something I could put up on the screen, but a
Mhm.
picture of in my phone. That particular day, I was so broke. Oh my gosh,
Wow.
broke with bad credit. Okay,
Uh-huh.
broke, and I think I had like 70 some cent a Sheets card that had like
Wow.
$10 on it or something.
Uh-huh.
And I took a picture of that laying on my bed. I laid it out on my bed and I took a picture of it. And I said, I will never be broke another day in my life.
No, that's right.
Right. And
Uh-huh.
so, I just prayed and God, just continued to bless the work of my hands. And that's when my business was born. And
Wow.
so that was, a product, a birth thing, so to speak,
Right.
my divorce. I had to
Mhm.
find myself. I had to
Mhm.
find what I was going to do to support myself and my children.
Wow.
So, and not only that, it allowed me flexibility because I
Mhm.
tried other things, but people wanted me to clock in, clock out.
Mhm.
And how many mamas out there know when you got babies at home sick, you
Right.
ain't thinking about getting to work.
Right. You
You
gotta
gotta
take care of
take
them babies.
you gotta take care of the babies. And
Right.
then after you get finished nursing them back to health, you get sick.
Right. You need some flexibility.
You need some flexibility. And
Mhm.
so for me, real estate provided all of that. And not only that, I realized, through real estate, I was able to, and I know we'll probably get into that a little bit later, but I was able to, kind of um, tell parts of my testimony and help other women sort of find their way
Mhm.
during the
Wow.
process.
That's deep.
So yeah, so it really did just open up several doors for me, and I'm just very thankful for that. But
Mhm.
back to the part about co-parenting.
Mhm.
Um, Once I got confident within myself and found my niche and found my way and kind
Mhm.
of got my groove and my confidence began to grow, that's when I let go of a lot of the bitterness
Mhm.
between my ex-husband and I.
Mhm.
That's when I was able to do some self-reflecting and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, girl, this ain't about you and him. Mm-mm.
About
It's
them
about these
babies.
babies,
Mhm.
right?" And so I had to go through it. I had to watch him date
Mhm.
other people. He
Mhm.
watched me date other people. And I had to realize, hey, you can't have attitude with this young lady. She might be in your children's life
Mhm.
forever. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Again, it's bigger than you. As long as that person's not doing anything to hurt your children, you need to let that go, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Because at that point, it's not about you and the husband, it's about the babies.
Right.
So thankfully, once we got past all the all the bitterness, all the bickering back and forth, and we were able to sit and have a conversation, it's like, okay, we gotta work together as a team, because at the end of the day, we still family.
Right. I love
You
that.
know?
Because that's the grown-up thing. That's the mature thing, because you do have to take yourself out the equation and remember it's for the children. It's not about you or him. And as long as you guys can communicate, it's about the kids, you know.
It's about the kids. And we'll sit down, we have dinner together. You know, we have family meetings. Now, we haven't been on vacation and we're not that evolved yet.
Right.
Girl, we there yet. Listen. But but he has brought a significant other to my home for the twins' birthday, things like that. It's like, hey girl, hey, you want some wings? You like crab legs?
I see the likes in here, the laughter, the hugs and stuff. Yes. Because you have to be mature, because at this point, like you said, you guys are not getting back together, the feelings are gone.
Listen, okay. It's like, what am I gonna hate on her? She ain't do nothing. Can't be like that.
Right.
No. Hey girl, hey, you want some wings? Okay, you don't want no wings. All right. It's cool, whatever it is.
I know one thing you told me too, that you guys do actually give opinions about the significant others or the people you're dating. You guys are free to voice your opinions. And I like that.
Now listen, and that is true evolution, okay? So, I'm like, Dad, I don't know about that one.
I love that.
Or he'll be like, Mom, he a jerk. Like, and it's okay. Like, I've learned not to take offense to it. Because again, at the end of the day, I know he wants me happy because our kids are gonna be happy. Same thing. I want him happy because I know if they with him and he happy with whoever he with, the kids are gonna be good.
Right.
That's it.
There you go.
Literally, that's it. And it's like, not that one.
But I like it because you know what? It's simple, but we make it so complex. It's really simple.
It really is. And I think it's just, again, getting past yourself, getting over. You know how the old folks used to say, child, get over yourself.
Get over yourself. Right.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
You're right.
Because I would be, in the beginning, I'm offended because how dare he not want to be with me?
Right.
Can we see me?
You was holding on to them feelings, sis. You was holding on.
Listen, what Jasmine say? Don't forget to come and pick up your feelings. Jasmine told me, that's what she said. Don't forget to come pick them up, boo.
Right, exactly.
You can't do it when you have kids. You cannot.
You cannot.
And so, it's just the picture is so much bigger. And they're happy when you're happy.
Right. And it goes back to teaching healthy relationships. Because even though you all are not together, you're still able to have a healthy family dynamic. And that's key, because that's teaching your children, like, okay, this is how love's supposed to look like. Even though they're not together, we still love each other as a family.
Correct. And I never trashed their dad. Now, okay, let me preface something. Okay, so let me say, not in front of them. Okay, so I had my moments. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real. I had my moments where I was blah 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 blah, but never in front of the kids.
Right, there you go.
It was always to my girlfriends or my mom or somebody when they weren't around. That's when I expressed my disdain.
Right. I mean, I think that's, we're human. And so, but I think, again, having not in front of them, and then also not on social media, because that's one of my pet peeves. Like, don't do
Listen, girl, keep your business private.
Right.
Don't tell that.
Right.
So, and then it's a record. It's out there, because once you put it out there, it can't
it's
come
out
back,
there. And then, like I said, your kids can eventually see that. And so that's the thing. You don't want to do that. I'm laughing at the comments my friend Meech was saying, you want blue cheese or ranch with them wings?
Girl, you don't understand. I offer her some wings so many times. I was like, you sure you don't want no wings?
And so
Girl, we
speaking
have
of,
wings and crab legs and salad. She didn't even want no salad. I said, well, Jesus, it's
well,
gonna
you
be
were
all right.
trying to be friendly, so that's all that matters, right? You tried to be welcoming.
I did. I tried.
So speaking
Yes.
of relationships and, of course, dating and being a single mom and divorcee, and I'm speaking for myself too, it gets hard out there trying to date again and start
Yeah.
over because again, nobody want to start over again. Let's keep it real. And it's just a headache, and dating is totally different these days. So what lessons have you learned in dating?
Oh, so many. Do we have another 3 hours to talk?
You got to sum it up in a minute. No, I'm just playing.
No, but so pay attention. Just pay attention to the early signs, the red flags. Don't ignore them. The things that again that the Holy Spirit reveals to you up front in the beginning. Trust that. Trust it. Always trust it. Right. And trust if your children don't like them. Will somebody say something?
No.
Somebody. Okay.
I just laugh at the comments of people just like laughing and smiling. Somebody said you must have patience.
Yes, Lord. But if your children don't like them, that's a sign.
Right.
If your children don't like them, and contrary to a lot of people's beliefs, I introduce my children to them up front. And I'll tell you why. Because when you're in the honeymoon phase, you got stars in your eyes, butterflies in your stomach, which could be actual anxiety, but we're gonna talk about that another day. That could be anxiety.
Right.
But you got stars in your eyes, little heart emojis going everywhere, and you're just so blinded by love or the thought of love that you can't see things that are obvious. And so, kids and animals, honey, they pick up on stuff real quick. Okay. And so I believe because they're innocent,
Right,
so
true.
I introduce them. Now I don't let them spend time, like no quality time. I'm not going to leave them alone with my children or anything like that. But in terms of an introduction, I want to see their reaction, and I want to see how this person's going to interact with my children. I'm going to see, I want to watch everything. I'm going to just sit back and observe. Right. Now, they will not spend quality time, but they will be introduced very early on. Right. And then there's a period where they may never see this person again. And I introduce them as a friend, like literally a friend. And my kids are old enough now that I can explain that. Hey, yeah, so I'm out here dating people. Right. This is a potential. What are your thoughts? And so again, having those open conversations, with my children about who I may be seeing. Right. Because I need to know, especially my oldest son, what I'm saying? He's 17. He hip to a lot of game now. Yeah. He be like, nah, ma, no, ma. His eyes was twitching back and forth. He looked me in the eye, or even as something as simple as a good handshake. Those are things that my children notice. That's true. So anyway, but yeah, I do. I introduce them very early on, and then, then they don't see them for a while. And if they make the cut, then they come back. But if they don't make the cut,
you like out of here. You won't never see them again.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Right. So, that also paying attention to how they interact with my family and friends, how they treat the waiter or waitress at dinner. Believe it or not, y'all, that right there says a whole lot about that person. Are they kind to people in general?
Right. How they treat their mama.
How they treat their mama.
Right.
If they are up in age, I'm saying I ain't old, but I'm kind of getting there. And so, but if you're dating a 40-plus-year-old man and he doesn't have a good relationship with his children,
that's a good point.
That's a red flag. Things like that. I listen to a lot of sermons, or I don't even know if you would call them sermons, but sort of self-help videos on YouTube with a pastor by the name of R.C. Blakes Jr. He's in a series called Queenology. He does Kingology, but basically it's tips for dating at this age, and especially if you didn't have a father present. He's just a very good resource for wisdom. He's a father, a pastor. He has daughters himself. I've listened to a lot of, his teachings on stuff like that.
Yeah, if you can put that in the chat, his name in the chat for those who may want to look at his stuff.
Oh, sure. I can do that.
And I think too, like you said, loving yourself and trusting yourself. So not being afraid of being alone. And
that part, honey. Right. Listen, I would love to be remarried, and because I know people like, well, won't you just engaged? And I've had so many people ask me that. And yes, I was engaged, but no, I'm no longer engaged. Just as a public FYI.
Like, mind your business, people. Mind your business.
Listen, this is what I do over here. Drink water. And mind
your business, right?
But it's okay. So, but no, I'm no longer engaged. But there's a reason for that. And thankfully it's because I listened to myself. I said, no, can't do that. And so again, if you have the thing that we want to do sometimes when we're dating is we want to be private and we want to keep it from everybody. And we don't want to let people in on our business because we feel like it's our business, and we want to be private about it. We don't want to tell nobody. But at the end of the day, if you haven't made the best relational choices, that's not the time to be private about it. That's the time to enlist your circle, the people that you trust and love, who can give you sound, solid, godly wisdom and advice. That's the time. That's when you should tell.
Right, because it goes back to, again, people on the outside looking in. Because when you're on the inside, like you said, look it out, you're not seeing the same thing because you're in that honeymoon phase. But when you have people on the outside looking in, they're not blinded by all of that. So that's a good point, But
the friends don't like them, the mama don't like them, your kids don't like them, the dog done bit him twice. Come on now, baby. That's a sign. Talk about show me a sign. That's the sign right there.
That's the sign, right. And then I think too, but like I told you the other day, being proud of yourself when you recognize it. Like, it's nothing, like you said, it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's like, at least you grew, you matured enough to say, nah, this ain't it. So that's progress. So when you pat yourself on the back that, hey, that's progress. I didn't walk down the aisle with this person because I saw the red flags and I felt I was too far in. No, I was like, nah, I'm good. So that's progress. And so speaking of progress, how have you, what things have you done to overcome your past trauma and divorce? And you may not have overcome it, but you're working through it.
Sure. So again, prayer. Yes, I believe in prayer. Church girl in my heart. Grew up apostolic.
Faith, hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Okay. Saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, fire, baptized, speaking in tongues. Hallelujah. Right? 99 and a half won't do. Run to make 100. So yes, I believe in the power of prayer.
Right.
And scripture and scriptural teachings. Again, I listen to R.C. Blakes Jr. all the time. Like he is continuously in my ear. But I also went to therapy. Right. And it's not my first go around. Like I've been to therapy multiple times. I think it should be an ongoing thing for most people. We're dealing a lot, with a lot today. You have people who are experiencing, especially during COVID, there were, multiple deaths, unfortunately. People lost loved ones, co-workers, aunties, I would see articles where 4 or 5 siblings, in the 60, 70 plus age group just wiped out at one time. That's a lot of grief. Things like that, the death of a relationship, the death of a marriage, all of those things. You should talk about it. And I think there's a stigma in our culture. Sometimes it says it's not okay if you have to go see somebody and talk about your feelings. Well, I know for me, when it got to a point where my best friend, Nicole, hey, boo, hey, Nicole, if you're watching, I love you. And if you're not watching, I know you watched the replay. But my best friend was like, look, honey, I love you, but you need to talk to somebody. Because at some point, people who you know and love may not have the resources to help you.
Right.
It got to a point where, I'm just upset. Literally making myself sick. They're like, okay, well, we don't have the tools to help you anymore. You need to speak to someone who is a professional, such as yourself, because, when you're a
Yeah.
licensed therapist, you see all kind of people, right? But they have to acknowledge that there's an issue, that there's a problem. You can't get out of bed, low energy, don't halfway want to eat. For me, I gained weight, a lot of it.
Wow, I can't
I'm
imagine.
down 19
small.
pounds though. I'm down 19 pounds. But literally for me, I would eat. That was my comfort, and it got to a point where it was like, okay, why am I eating? Why am I not loving myself? Why am I not putting myself first? And that's when I was like, yeah, I need to talk to somebody. I need to talk to somebody. I need to get this off my chest, because I realized that, again, once I started talking about it, I felt better. I felt much better.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because like I said earlier in the beginning of this, is that me being a therapist, when I was dealing with my depression and going through a divorce, I didn't seek help. And my sister was living with me at the time, my younger sister, and she was like, you need to go see a therapist. Because I had that anger. I had, like I said, the sadness, and I would be snapping on people. I wasn't my regular stuff, because normally I'm pretty, upbeat and, saying and happy. I just wasn't myself, and I couldn't get out that funk. But I didn't want to, again, me being a therapist, you would think, I wouldn't let the stigma bother me, but I'm like, I should be okay, because I'm a therapist. I should be able to handle my own. But that first session, it's just like, I cried myself a river when I went to that therapist. As soon as I started talking, and it was like relief though. It was relief. It was like, because I had held it in so long, it was like that crying was just like, just release. And I went a few more sessions, and I was good, and even now, if I ever get to a place where I'm feeling like, I need to maybe talk to somebody, I go, even if it's for like 4 or 5 sessions, and I'm like, I'm good. And then
just
I'm
to work
moving
through
on.
that.
But you need that. And just, again, sometimes, like you said, talking to friends and family is good, talking to
That's
somebody,
it.
but you may not be as candid with them, as open, because they're your friends and family. They may judge you. Let's be real.
Listen.
That's one thing I tell my
You
clients,
want to know all your business,
right? And that's one thing I tell my clients, like, what you tell me is confidential. I don't judge, because that's not my job to do. And so you talking to a professional that's going to help you through. And sometimes that professional pushes you a little bit. And I was telling my client, I'm going to hold your hand, but I'm going to push you. I ain't going to push you off the cliff, but I'm going to push you, because that's how change happens, is when you're pushed. But I'm a strong advocate, for therapy. And so there are resources out there. If you can't afford therapy, they have different websites now where they make it affordable. They also, if you have an employee assistance program at your job, a lot of companies offer employee assistance programs. They give you a few sessions for free. And again, your employer won't know. They don't tell your employer and stuff like that. So it's still confidential. So there are some resources out there. So now moving on to the next thing, I know you talked about how you started your business. What motivated you behind that. I want you to share the name of your business, any social media accounts you have, so people can know how to follow you, and any upcoming events that you have.
Again, I'm not, I ain't the tech savvy person, but either way, the name of my company is Keys Company Realty. Right now, there's been a couple of agents to come and go, but right now it's just me.
Right.
So it's a boutique firm.
We like to call attention. Right. You get that individualized attention.
Absolutely. But of course, the idea is to grow it, of course, but
right. Absolutely.
Either way, right now, I thank God business has been great. I haven't had any lulls. It was a little small lull during the pandemic, but thankfully everything it's been popping. So I'm thankful for that. Still Keys Company Realty on Facebook and Instagram. My website is a little sketch, so I pulled it down because rather than have some mess, I said I'm gonna let somebody reconfigure that and then actually put it back. So I don't want to have something kind of we don't do that.
I got you.
So, but as far as upcoming events, there's an expo here in Raleigh. I think I'll list it on my website as well. It'll be in September. I'm accepting new clients. If you know anybody who wants to list, buy, it can be land, it can be multifamily, it can be selling an estate property, you can be divorcing or something like that. I hope with special cases like that as well. So,
Awesome. And we
mhm,
put it in the
mhm,
chat there on, so if you want to follow her and get more information or reach out to her. So I want you to tell
mhm,
me, what if someone is looking for a home or purchasing a home, share some
mhm,
steps that they need to do in order to prepare or either just start the whole process.
mhm. First and foremost, pull your credit. I
Mm.
always tell people to go, and I'm gonna type it right here, myfico.com. I'm giving, and I don't get paid by them, although I should as much as I recommend them, but whatever.
Oh, hold on
So
a
go to
second, cuz make sure you
myfico.
typing it in, you typing in the Zoom chat, type it in the Facebook chat. It's
Oh,
not
okay,
on
my
there, but I
bad.
put the other
Okay,
name in there though. I caught it.
I'm gonna figure that out though, because okay, all right, let me do it this way. Okay, so as much as I advertise for them, go to myfico.com
Mhm.
and pull your credit from all three bureaus. It's going to give you a plethora of scores, like so many credit scores. You can be like, what in the world? I got this many credit
Right.
scores. But it'll actually give you a mortgage score. So it'll
Uh-huh.
let you know exactly what's on your credit report. I think the monthly subscription is like $39.99 or something like that per month.
Mhm.
But if you're serious about taking charge and getting ready for home ownership, it is so worth the $40. Y'all spend that on Uber Eats. Come
Right.
on now. Go on and spend your $40, pull your credit.
Right.
At that point, if your scores are between, I would say, a 640 and above, you're pretty much there. You're ready, right? And if it's not, then you need probably some remediation or things like that.
Okay.
And I can help you with walking through that and different steps to raise your credit score.
Okay.
Um, some of the best lenders out there are mortgage brokers.
Mhm.
I guess I can put that in the chat as well, because they can shop,
Uh-huh.
your file to different mortgage lenders to see who can give you the best rate.
Oh.
If you prefer not to do it that way, I always say use state employees credit union.
Mhm.
I should be getting paid by them too.
Right, you putting that plug in.
Yeah, because state employees actually, they actually work very hard for their members, because if you're a member of a credit union, you actually own a small portion
Gotcha.
of that credit union.
So
So
for
it is
someone who
an
doesn't live in North
incentive for
Carolina, would
them.
it be like just a credit union, any credit union?
Any credit
It would.
union. It
Okay.
can be USAA, it can be, if you're military family, any credit union that offers a mortgage product, because they're going to
Okay.
be competitive, because they are a smaller lender. So they want your business, and it's incentive for them to actually lend to you.
Gotcha.
So once you pull your credit and you go see a lender to see how much you pre-qualify for, at that point, if they give you a letter or pre-approval, then you're ready to shop. You're ready to go house shopping. And
Mhm.
that's when you would contact a real estate professional, such as myself. And so, those are kind of the steps. I have people who come to me and want me to show them houses before pulling their credit. And I'm like, no, I can't
My time. No, I'm
do
just playing.
it.
You're like, don't be wasting
Can't
my
do it.
time.
Right. It's like, no, you gotta walk it out first. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You gotta go ahead and make sure you have all of that stuff in line first.
Mhm.
And
Right.
the reason why is because it's no point in shopping if you don't know how much you got in the wallet.
Right.
You,
Yeah, and I
you
would
need to
say
figure that
too,
part out.
right, even if you get approved, let's say if you get approved for 700,000, don't mean you have to get a house of 700,000. I try to go below, because I just don't
Right.
want to be living just to pay for my house.
You
I'm
don't
just
want to be
sorry.
house poor, eating beanie weenies, right?
Right.
That's the whole thing. You want to make sure you stay within your budget. And
Mhm.
those are things that a good real estate professional is going to talk to you about.
Right.
Um, you want somebody who's experienced. You want somebody, I mean, not knocking anybody straight out of real estate school. Thankfully, again, I had, previous experience as a mortgage loan officer, so I
Right.
understood both sides of
Mhm.
the field. But a lot of people who are brand new, sometimes they may not be as well versed. So it helps to have someone who's experienced,
Right.
on all levels.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I will say when I sold my first home, the person I had, she was not as, I mean, she was somewhat new, but I was trying to give a person of
Mhm.
color opportunity. And it didn't
Yeah.
go so well. So I let
Right.
her end up selling my house, but I ended up going back to my old realtor to help me buy a new house because it was just
Okay.
too much. And so I learned
Yeah.
from that, like to definitely, get someone that is, now she was nice and everything, but I did let her know too, her services were very different too from the other realtor too.
Right.
Laid out the red carpet for me. They give me gifts and everything. So
Right.
that's big. And so my chances of going back with her is very, very slim. Like I said, she was a great person. I appreciate her, but and I think I could have probably sold my house for more, but
Mm.
because of her not having as much experience, nor being that experience in my particular area as well,
Mhm.
I think I probably
Mhm.
cheated myself out of some money, but that's, that's over and done with. So lesson learned. And that's the thing.
Yeah, and I think which brings up an interesting point. When you are purchasing a home, you have to think about not only the value of your home, but you have to think about the people in the neighborhood, right?
Mhm.
So, if you're buying in a neighborhood where it's a whole bunch of, foreclosures and things like that, it drops your property value.
Or renters.
Um, yeah, yeah. But unfortunately, during this whole pandemic, there were a lot of large corporations going into these neighborhoods and buying up properties for the
Mhm.
purpose of renting them out.
Mhm.
And so having that said, and that's a whole nother, honey, we could spend another hour on that too. But home ownership is just so important.
Mhm.
I think statistically speaking, we're like 47, I think it's 47 years behind
Wow.
our white counterparts in terms of home ownership. And
Mhm.
I've heard so many people say, I don't want the responsibility of owning a home. They would prefer that if something breaks, someone else come and fix
Fix it
it, things
right.
like that. Instead of understanding that when you purchase, um, and you make a wise purchase, when it comes to your home, you can actually sell it and make a profit, which can lead to generational wealth.
Right.
It's all strategic. It's all
Right.
strategic. Yeah,
Because I feel as
yeah.
long as you have an asset, you always have money. Because you can like you said, because you can always sell it, even if you
Come
get
on.
down on times, hey, sell it.
You're paying into yourself. You're
Right.
paying into yourself
Exactly.
versus paying someone else's. And then 9 times out of 10, or especially in today's market, what you're paying for rent, you're probably doubling what a mortgage would cost.
Right. Hmm.
Average rent is like, I don't know, over $2,000 a month for three
Right.
bedroom, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath. It's expensive,
It's
you
expensive.
know.
Yeah. Because my mortgage is
Hmm.
not as expensive as that. And I'll be like, let me go and
Right,
see my little mortgage I got over here.
right.
I ain't trying to be in the
It
thousands.
makes you want to hold on.
Right. And so we got a couple of more questions before we end the night, but I want you to, for people out there who may not have the best credit or maybe want to build their
Mhm.
credit, how do they build their credit if they have no credit or bad credit?
So let me say this. Contact me. Let me go ahead and let me see. I'm gonna put my email in here, because it's a little intensive. And again, it involves pulling your credit report.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put my email. Hold on just a second. Me and these nails, I can't type fast. Y'all forgive me.
So while Tenial is
Just shoot
typing
me
that,
an
I just
email.
please put in the chat if you have any questions for her. So while she's typing that up, if you have any questions for her, she can answer that since we're
Yeah,
almost
just
coming to an end.
shoot them to my email. But
Mhm.
but there's a few steps. So pull your credit. Um, you need to see what's on there. You need to see what your
Mhm.
scores are. Any credit cards, pay down those balances below 30% of whatever your limit is. I'll give you an example. So, if you have a credit, whatever that credit card limit is, if you get a $300 credit card from Capital One, you need to pay it down below $90. You know what I'm saying? Those
Mhm.
starter credit cards, they can be the worst, right?
Mhm.
But people try to use those because they know that that's a fresh start, right? To
Right.
rebuilding credit.
Mhm.
So make sure those credit cards are paid down below 30%. Same thing goes for lines of credit. If you have loans out, if you can pay those down to below 30%, it will increase your scores. Pay your bills on time,
Mhm.
pay them ahead of time.
Mhm.
If you charge something on a credit card, pay it off. Like, try not to get that interest or whatever, or
Mhm.
again, pay it down below 30%. There are quite a few sites that I have. That's why I was saying, email me.
Mhm.
There's quite a few sites that I can recommend that, are virtually low to no cost that will assist you in building credit. Also, I do have a great resource for credit repair. I know everybody's like, oh, that's a hustle.
Mhm.
Oh, they're going to take my money. But no, I actually do have a really, really good credit repair person,
Mhm.
on trusted. And honey asked me how I know. Go ahead,
How
because
you
ask me
know?
how I know. Honey, because I had to use them. That's why.
By own personal experience, right?
I had to use them, honey.
So
My
you a
credit
witness.
was so.
So you know for sure, for sure.
I know for sure. And so they will do a great job
Mhm.
of, kind of helping get some things eliminated off your credit report. But, in that process of getting some things cleaned up on your credit, you can be building credit in the process.
Right.
So that's the ticket. So it's not just getting stuff off. It's actually building a positive payment history during the process. So that's kind of the
Awesome.
ticket.
Yes, I
That's the
like
sweet
that.
sauce. Yeah.
And then the last question of the night, just a word to wisdom. What would be your best advice to someone who is having difficulty dealing with their childhood trauma?
Someone who's having difficulties dealing with their childhood trauma,
Mhm.
um, find a good therapist.
Mhm.
It's going to be uncomfortable at first. You're probably not going to want to talk. You're probably not going to want to open yourself up. But understand that therapy is so good for your soul. It's going to help you heal. It's going to help you discover things about yourself you would have never discovered otherwise. And it helps to promote healing.
Mhm.
It heals you from the inside out.
Mhm.
And once you get into it and you actually start, going through your process of healing, you'll find yourself smiling more. You'll feel like burdens are lifted. It may take a while to get to that point. You're going to have to dive deep. You're going to have to
Right.
do the work. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be magical. But at the end of the day, you come out a better person on the other side.
Right. Yes.
It's a
Absolutely.
journey. It really is a journey of healing yourself, because
Mhm.
that's the only way you can, you know, I believe you can only love others out of the abundance of loving yourself
I like
first.
that.
That's part of loving yourself. The Bible
Exactly.
says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. How you gonna love somebody else if you don't do that work within and love yourself,
Mhm.
right? Just
Right.
take that time, go through therapy, talk it out,
Mhm.
pray,
Mhm.
put yourself, love yourself, love yourself,
Mhm.
because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right. Oh, that's one of my favorite sayings. And then forgive
Cannot.
yourself as well.
Ooh, yes, honey.
Forgive
Yes.
yourself because that's part of the loving yourself. Because sometimes when things do happen, like I can speak again for myself, going through a divorce, a lot of times I blame
Hmm.
myself. Like, why
Hmm.
did I see the signs? Why did I get married to this person? Things like that. So my
Hmm.
healing truly began when I forgave myself. And then
Hmm.
sometimes we have
Hmm.
the tendency to forgive others, but so
Hmm.
hard on ourselves.
Oh, honey, listen, I'm that one. I am that
Mhm.
one, and you have to be able to show yourself some grace. Forgive yourself,
Absolutely.
embrace your mistakes, learn from them, find the lesson,
There you
whatever it
go.
is,
Mhm.
find the lesson.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Isn't
that's how you overcome. You
right.
gotta, it starts within. It starts
Right.
within.
And I love what you
Hmm.
said about the lessons because sometimes we look at things as being failures, but they should be lessons, not failures. Failures is the
Honey,
giving up, but lessons is that you learn from this. I bet you'll remember not to do it again. Now, if you keep doing it again, you definitely need therapy because something ain't right there. So
I
yes.
never say win or lose. I say win or learn.
Right. There you go. I
Win
love
or
that.
learn.
I love that.
You gonna figure it out.
Right. You'll figure it out. And so I'm looking
Yeah.
in here. So hi, Sharika. Hi, Brianna. I see a lot of people still on here. So now we're at our end where we're going to do giveaway. Tenial, so you tell us about your giveaway that you have.
So the giveaway is I'll do a free analysis from start to finish, walk you through the whole process of home ownership for whoever wins. We can start from scratch. We can start at credit, whatever, wherever you are in your process, and explaining. You'll have a free consultation, even if it's you're already educated about home buying or that process, and you want a consultation about investing or learning about flipping or whatever it is, real estate related, a one-on-one.
Awesome.
I'm cool with it. Let's do it.
Very valuable, and you're going to be getting it for free. Okay. And
Yes.
so how we do our giveaway, we usually ask a question based on something we talked about today to see who was listening, who was also on the whole time. But and so whoever responds first in the chat with the correct answer, no abbreviations, you have to have it spelled correctly. Those are the rules. So Tenial, I'll let you be the person who chooses what question you want to ask based on what we talked about today. Something.
What happened? Let me make sure I got this. Okay, so I just asked a question about anything we talked about.
Anything we talked about, you can keep it simple. You can say the name of your business or something like that, anything.
Okay, I gotcha. What did I ask Alicia if she remembered from our childhood?
Oh, that's funny. It might be a hard one.
Yeah, it was a little while back. Let's see if anybody answers or remembers. I don't know.
If no one remembers that, let's see. So repeat the question again.
What did I ask Alicia if she remembered when we were children, something that happened when we were children and I had to stay at her house?
Meech Dog has it.
Yeah, Meech Dog got it.
Being snowed in at her house. That's right. Somebody was listening. You are the winner.
Sadable, you were little. You were little when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. I think you might have been a baby.
Well, thank you, Cuz, for joining me tonight. Thank you, everyone who joined us, and thank you for the comments and the love. So I want to say to you, Cuz, you are a hero.
Takes one to know one, baby.
Right. You have sacrificed for your children. You have healed from your past hurts. You are evolving into what God wants you to be. You have revealed your truth here today. And you continue to reveal your truth, and you are out there obtaining your goals and happiness. Your company is booming because every time, like I said, I see that you have another one under contract. So yes. And so we're praying that your business continues to grow. And I just thank you again for taking out the time to be on this platform to share your story. And what you did today was brave because a lot of people, like I said, they don't talk about childhood traumas or they don't want to talk about it or they're embarrassed by it. So you help somebody today by revealing your truth. And I really do appreciate you. And again, I appreciate you all that were on here tonight. So thank you. And thank you for another successful S.H.E.R.O Spotlight.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
All right. Have a good night.
All
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.